The drama fields are flourishing out here in the hardcore punk rock world, and the gossip fruits just keep falling off the vine. And today's gossip is the former lead singer of the band ZULU, Anaya Rashid Muhammad, yet again. I'm gonna plunge these knuckle dusters into this situation, but before I do, hey, hi, hello, warriors. My name is Dan Frampton, and welcome to the clubhouse known as Culture Castle. Park your American maids in the garage and fill them up with engagement. Likes and subs, let's go. Get the comments going within the first 3 hours, and I will reply. That is the bad boy guarantee. Alright, 1%ers, I really hope that you're sitting on twos today because this is one beefy statement that we're about to get into. Ahead of the main course, which is Anaya's statement, I'll serve up the appetizers and beverages in the form of a drama speed run. So for this, let's go back to 2020 real quick. Back then, Anaya wasn't in the band ZULU, he was the drummer in the band Dare, and also on every single turnstile stage, he'd be found stage diving. Anaya may have had the most steez of any slam dancer or stage diver that I have ever seen. And the dude was mad talented too. As he was juggling all this sort of stuff, he was writing and recording the project that would eventually be called ZULU. In that project, he would take the front of the stage and then staff his band's roster around that. He'd go through a couple drummer changes here and there, and that is all related to the drama that we're about to get into today. And then through the early 20s, we got ZULU kind of kicking ass and taking names, touring the country, going overseas, getting onto huge hardcore bills, playing big festivals, that kind of thing. Anaya has always had this kind of squeaky clean kind of image. He seemed like somebody that stood on business and sat on twos. And after about 5 or 6 years of grinding, establishing his name, carving out a place for ZULU in the scene, it all came unraveled last week when a woman known as Simpson hit the internet with some allegations against Anaya Rashid Muhammad. In those allegations, there was a highly detailed account that described Anaya unconsensually recording a conversation that Simpson was having with a friend through a wall secretly, and then using that conversation that he recorded unconsensually to stir up even more shit. It was then accused that Anaya invited somebody that was mad at Simpson into their house to bust through their bedroom door and beat them up as their family watched and filmed it as it all went down. It was outlined through these statements that Simpson and Anaya were never really romantically linked. They were more roommates that fooled around, and it just got really complicated. In Simpson's allegation, she accused Anaya of being physically, emotionally, and verbally abusive, saying that he would hit her and then afterwards say that he was just roughhousing or playing around. After these allegations came out and the internet started chewing on them a little bit, Anaya came out with a half-assed statement basically saying, "I'm a religious person, guys, I would never do bad things." It was like a 4 or 5 slide statement that really didn't seem to address anything that was accused. It seemed like he was dodging accountability and just trying to make this all go away as quickly as possible. ZULU was then dropped from their remaining tour dates. The band and the bandmates started to distance themselves from Anaya by unfollowing him across all their platforms. ZULU, the band, would then publicly address it via a statement on Instagram, of course, and they officially announced that ZULU was taking a pause and that the bandmates were no longer going to work with Anaya. It was looking really, really bad for Anaya at this time. During the Simpson allegation, the former drummer of ZULU backed up all of Simpson's claims, and other people came forward with their own stories as well. Anaya went from having no paper trail to having a rather significant one in the span of just a week. Now, this is just the drama speedrun. I've covered this story in 3 videos so far on this channel, and if you want to catch up and get all the details, I would suggest going and watching those videos. But for the purposes of this video, that's where it sat until recently. Anaya just deleted that bad statement that he put up, and I knew he would. I saved it to my phone via screenshots because it was clear that this was getting deleted. But he's replaced it with this more substantial response over here. We are gonna go over this 19-page statement that includes leaked texts, videos, STI diagnoses, and other such things, and through this, we'll get a better and more clear picture of what's going on in this situation. Is Anaya gonna completely clear his name in these 19 slides? Well, based on the comments, not so much. But let's dive into this thing, let's read it, let's give all the context, and then after that, we'll break it down, and as a gang, we'll come to a conclusion over here. But the bad boy is blind, and I can't read this from all the way over there, so I'm gonna have to put on my spectacles. Perfect. Okay, diving in. I want to start off by apologizing for how long it took to formulate this message. It's been extremely difficult trying to find the words to start this or how to go into it, but I think it's best just to lay it all out there the best that I can. This is a full account of my entire time with Christina Simpson Williams. I kindly ask people to take the time to read through the entire thing, as a lot of nuance and important information has now been added. It's a long account, but it feels important to offer as much transparency as possible. In late March 2024, Christina subleased a room at our apartment, initially for 2 months. Her and I were previously just internet friends that had talked once in a while and would stay in contact whenever we were in each other's cities. Initially, things were fine and our relationship was at a good point. Our third roommate, Christina, and I would hang out all together, spend time cooking, going out, etc. Genuinely just unified in our own housing, which was a nice time during the early stage of her being there. We had a playful atmosphere around the house. Our third roommate was a jiu-jitsu fighter and would regularly try fighting moves on us or any of our friends that came over. We all engaged in play fighting in a big kids type of vibe. The mentioned roughhousing was never harmful and everything was always done in a safe, fun manner with respect for one another. Eventually, I had sadly got out of a romantic relationship with my partner Brittany and had a very rough time processing the breakup. Christina was aware of my situation. She saw me go through the breakup and comforted me through some of my lowest moments. Additionally, during this time, my depression was at an all-time low. There was a lot happening in my personal life, and on top of the breakup, which ultimately led me to feelings of despondency and anxiety. And sadly, these feelings of despair put me in a state where I ultimately poured it all out in a side note. When Christina checked in on me, I explained to her the mental place I had found myself in and how I had written something up. She asked to see it. Although I initially was hesitant to share, I did confide that in her. This is really difficult for me to share online, but I have dealt with ideation as a result of chronic depression since my teenage years. Christina, as well as some of my close friends and loved ones, was aware of my struggles with depression and ideation. I've always tried to be transparent about that within my close circle. While I understand this is a heavy subject matter to deal with, I didn't share this in a weaponizing manner. This was an act of attempting to be vulnerable with someone that opened the floor to be. Our closeness eventually led to consensual intimacy on a couple occasions. It felt important to communicate very clearly with Christina about my emotional state and the intentions. I clearly expressed I did not have the emotional capacity to look for any sort of relationship at all, as I had recently just exited a relationship and of course still had conflicting feelings about my then ex. Christina was communicative too and expressed the same sentiment that she was not looking for anything as well, and our interaction was just what it was. To my understanding then, we reached a mutual agreement as two consenting adults. If there had been any sort of issue, it would have not have been known by any means. The intimacy did change the dynamic of our friendship in many ways. Prior, for the most part, anytime we had to discuss anything, communication on both parts was clear and we felt heard. But as time went on, that became more and more strained. It became increasingly more inconsistent. At times it felt like our normal conversations, and at other times it felt dismissive. There was increasingly less consideration towards our living spaces. She didn't contribute to chores and continued nighttime loudness, talking loudly, playing and making music in the early hours, leading to ongoing neighbor complaints and disputes with our landlord. After discussing the house and landlord issues, there was a couple times that Christina said she'd leave the house / break the lease, and then took it back and denied ever saying so. We slowly started to grow more and more distant from one another. Between our increasingly rocky communication and tensions in the living space, I thought it was best to give it some space and stay out of the way for the remainder of the sublease. But we then learned the person that she was subleasing from ended up extending their stay away from the home, at least until later that fall. I was reluctant about extending the sublease to Christina and shared my concerns with the roommate, but ultimately it was decided to extend. We discussed the concerns around our living space altogether, and Christina decided to stay another couple months. Towards the beginning of the summer, I was getting ready to go on a month-long European tour with my band. Brittany and I started talking again and began taking steps towards possibly rekindling our relationship. Knowing I'd be gone for a while, I was spending most of my time away from home with Brittany. I was honest with Brittany about the intimate moments that had happened with Christina. While I was on tour, Brittany shared she was going to an event with our other roommate, an outing they've been planning for quite some time, but that Christina had also been invited. Brittany felt uncomfortable about going out with Christina and asked if I could ask Christina if she'd be okay with potentially not going. I felt responsible, so I agreed and reached out to Christina, who responded angrily, questioning our friendship and mentioned she felt it was messed up to consider asking her not to go. I apologized for mentioning it at all and expressed my concern about potential conflict, but ultimately it was not heard and she resorted to taunting comments about Brittany. Oh my god, I can't read that. That is so small. I literally can't read this on my computer. I am so blind. These letters do not look like letters to me, so forgive me. I will be reading this next part on the phone. Oh man, I can't even see it here. This is brutal. Okay, I will get it. I will get it. Even if I have to zoom in and read it one word at a time, you guys are gonna get this entire statement. While Christina claims that Brittany attempted to fight her at the club and stated I consequently put her life in harm's way, in reality, Christina is the one who confronted Brittany and our intention was to avoid conflict. Multiple friends who were at the event confirmed Brittany did not try to fight her. What did happen is that Brittany shared her frustration about the situation with our other roommate, who was her best friend at the time. And during their conversation at the club, Christina interjected and got into Brittany's face. Following, there was a back and forth text exchange between Christina and I about the situation, but also about the state of our friendship. We shared our feelings about our approach to it and where we both clearly had opposing opinions. Nevertheless, we at one point came to a mutual understanding and concluded that upon me returning home, things would be at best just neutral while the rest of her time at our place plays out. This was the resolution to that conversation. And then he attaches these two screenshots. The gray is Christina, the blue is Anaya. Anaya, I think we'll always be on different pages in the same book because I know no one is perfect and people are flawed and shit just happens and that's like life. And I navigate the world knowing that, so I take stuff with a grain of salt. And I know everything comes to pass. So there's no, if we're gonna be in this, because even in this right now, I think you're misunderstanding me because I'm not mad at you, nor do I think you're a bad person. Far from it. I see that you're doing a lot of stuff and trying to be the best that you can be. And in that, there'll always be waves, and we rode one together. And I harbor no ill will or guilt or shame or even unrepentant rage or whatever. But I feel like you don't give me any grace at all to be a person with range that fucks up to. And then he replies, I agree with all this, and you're right. People deserve grace, even in this situation. I'm not perfect. I know that no one is, and I'm not going to crucify anyone the same way I wouldn't want to be crucified. I'm sorry if it felt like I'm just giving up on this and not understanding you because truly, I just feel like giving up. I recognize that's not to be the best thing. After the amount of loss in my life, it's easier to just bounce out. Thank you for telling me because I never want to be a hypocrite in that regard at all. I just haven't had it in me to have felt the need to give up altogether. And I don't want that to be taken that I don't care about your feelings or you. So I apologize it's been that way for you because it's not what I wanted. I'm used to just people leaving with no explanation at all. And then she responds, you've expressed that to me before, which is why I felt so cut up. In particular, cause I'm just like, well, what about my feelings? I didn't feel like they were truly being honored at the least, even acknowledged. And ending a relationship thousands of miles away over text is an unceremonious departure I would never be happy with, which is why I would have preferred if you said it to my face, which is why I asked to talk when you came back. It's not like that for me at all, and I'm sorry for hurting you. I recognize we have differences now, but if there's time in the future, I would meet you there gladly. I would find you in any lifetime. She continues, it's cut off so I can't read the top part of this message here, but from where I can see it says, I'm done with this is just, immature and unfair to the both of us because we will have conflict. Conflict is inevitable in every relationship. I understand some conflict is not resolvable fully, but I never really considered this to be one of those with communication and time. He responds, yeah, I understand that you're right. In person is the move. I wouldn't want to do that, especially over tour. And being as overwhelmed as I was, I just needed to separate right now. Which I did mention right now, and not forever, but understanding still where you're coming from, and I'm sorry too. I appreciate that though. And I know the differences we have. It's just what we have to navigate as we figure out where we don't understand each other. I do get all those things too about connecting with those people and how differently we are inherently, but we connect on how sporadic and crazy we are regardless. And then she responds, most of my friends and the people I spend my time with are artists, and I don't even mean musicians. And they all have crazy lives and insane personalities. I say this lovingly, and that's why we all get along. We do insane shit together, like talk about going to Iceland on a whim, or just going into the woods for days, unprepared, or meeting a stranger at a party, and then going on a crazy bender with them like we are locked in, LOL. Or like pushing each other to the limits in our own personal lives, good and bad. But it's like that ebb and flow. I also recognize that I have more adventurous spirit than most people by miles, and that's why I attract the people that I do. But also in that, I have so much space to understand many perspectives. And I know it's never gonna end the world. But also when I let my feelings sit and sit, they seep out and will build until I turn into a hurricane and lash out at everyone until I contain it again. And I hate being that way too. He responds with a message that's cut off, but it says, ... It's just leaving a situation with it still sitting awkwardly, which is not good either, so we both have our things. You're not wrong. It is unfair to just fight out our conflict. You're not wrong. It is unfair just to fight out. Conflict will happen, absolutely. I want to say too, that with communication and understanding and time, it'll help. And then she responds, I hear what you're saying. Thank you for saying this too. This is a much more comfortable space for me because I definitely didn't want to come back and we have like a blowout when I'm like, I'm just trying to say how I feel. And then he responds, yeah, of course, I wouldn't want that either. Like we're friends, I don't any the last month. I don't know what this says, Anaya. Like we're friends, I don't any the last month of you being. Guys, if you have any idea what he's trying to say here, comment down below. I have no idea. But those were the messages of them resolving this conflict. If someone just gave me these messages and were like, what is this? I'd have to say, I have no idea. I would have no idea that this is conflict resolution. But again, I'm not going to put that on them. They're the ones communicating. They're the ones that are in the friendship over there. I'm going to boil it down how certain people in certain parts of the world communicate with one another. But anyway, that conflict was resolved. Moving on with the statement. Unfortunately, upon returning home, it was far from that. The energy in our home felt way off. We hardly saw each other, and when we did, it was very stiff, brief, and honestly awkward. There were very few actual interactions, a bit to my surprise. As the last time we communicated, I thought it would be chill and cordial. I can acknowledge that maybe I just interpreted what that would look like differently. All in all, it felt best to continue giving space, and I stayed at my partner's place as much as possible for the time being. The next part of the story feels embarrassing to discuss publicly, but is crucial to mention, as this is what I feel was the true turning point to all of this. Early in July, I get a text from Christina asking when I would come around the home because she claimed that I had potentially given her an STI. As I had negative test records prior to the interaction, I denied it, as I was sure of it. You can also check the previous text date to see this took place immediately after our last message. Tuesday, July 9th, 6:12 p.m. The last message before that looks like it came through Tuesday, June 26th at 2:55 p.m. where Christina's messages read, "Are you ever coming back? We need to talk when you get back. I think I got an STI from you, ... question mark. After a short interaction via text, I came home late around 2 a.m. and arrived to Christina sitting in our living room as she proceeded to yell at me. The conversation was all about what happened while I was on tour. I had mentioned that we had reached a mutual agreement and that I hoped things would be cordial. As mentioned, Christina dismissed it, asked what I was talking about and denied ever having this conversation. She switched subjects to the presumed STI, once again accusing me of transmitting it. I again relayed that I had a negative test prior to our moments of intimacy. I explained that while Brittany and I began to resume our relationship, she had also gotten tested in early June and received a negative test as well. Christina started walking away, nodded her head, and told me to ask me about my partner and my bandmate and what they had going on. I asked what she was implying, but she continued to cuss me out as she walked away. I approached Brittany and my bandmate afterwards. We held space and both denied these claims. I've known them for years. They had their own relationship, but I believed them. To assure everyone, on July 10th, I proceeded to get another STI test. I tested at multiple places, such as APLA, to rule out a possible wrongful negative. I received negative test results throughout. Christina has never showed her own STI tests, even though I respectfully ask for proof of my own and check the date. The date of the first one there, July 10th, 2020, and the second one exactly 4 years later on July 10th, 2024, showing a negative result, not detected. The following day, I received another message from Christina, this time actively accusing me of transmitting an STI. She sent a paper that showed prescribed antibiotics, but nothing on the paper included her name. And then we get more text messages where she says, "When will you be by tomorrow?" I'm like, very distressed. "When will you be by tomorrow?" I'm like, very distressed. The nurse said chlamydia. You can have for even years and not know because it's 50% asymptomatic. In men, even at the time of testing. I have cerviculus, but it's just inflammation of the cervix as a symptom of this. There is nothing else, to be quite frank and honest. Even typing this makes my chest feel very tight, that you'd say I have many things when I said I didn't and you'd been my only partner. And also call my character into question about any of this when I've been nothing but truthful with you. And now my health and livelihood has been jeopardized twice by you recently. Like, I literally do not know what happened or switched, but I spent literally almost $500 today on a follow-up. So yes, you can say you're negative, and you should be, because I've never had an STD, not even a cold sore on my lip, but that's not the case for me. Like, Anaya, seriously, what are you doing? I don't know why you're being this way to me, or whatever. But like this isn't even a I don't have anything to say to you here, which is still, thing like this is a matter of both our health and livelihood and that of others. Like, I haven't eaten in 4 days now. I don't know why you would engage me when you know you hadn't been tested and had this illness. Like, none of this is literally fair to me at all. But the calling my character at all into question something I simply will not stand for, even in this life. When I looked you in the eye the other night and asked for the truth, I knew you were lying. You wouldn't even give me the respect of eye contact. Like, that shit is fucking dangerous. And then she shares a picture of a document that is way too blurry to read. We have protested together. We have cooked for each other. We've partied together many times. We've had I've read your side note. I ain't no reason in this world to lie to you. So whoever or whatever got in your head about me, if even the trees will testify against us on Judgment Day, let it be. Because this too will come to pass. And the truth will come to light. And you will apologize to me. And then it will be sincere. I know it, but this ain't right. The first time I tried to talk to anyone about this was at the studio, June 21st, and went to sleep on the stacks, and my friend was like, "What's wrong?" And I texted him later, like this person I thought was my friend incited a fight between me and his ex while not being in the country, and I think he gave me an STD. Executive decision on this slide over here, this first screenshot, I'm not going to include it because I can't tell what's going on here. There is missing context in this screenshot. From what it looks like, this is Simpson sending this to somebody else. It says, like, I can send you the text, and then it's a text, I think, with someone named Annie, which seems like a name for Anaya, but I can't be 100% sure. And then she describes that incident, or I think it's her describing this incident in a text. Like I said, the context for this screenshot is not there. It's impossible to tell who's in the blue, who's in the gray, what screenshot's being sent to who's having what conversation. You can go in there and deduce, and based on the context clues, kind of figure it out a little bit, but the context is completely missing from this statement for this screenshot right here. But moving on to the screenshot right beside it, it's clear that it's Anaya's screenshot of his text messages with Christina, where he responds to Christina and says, "We have been great friends, and I also have no reason to lie to you either. Like I said about the fight though, I apologize for that situation, and I didn't try to incite a fight. I recognized that in the instance how I shouldn't have gotten involved and said anything. This I have mentioned. I've tried my best from afar to prevent it and said what in the case may be, to be fair. Some of these things are just not true, and it sucks to hear you say it's like that. I was gonna be home yesterday to show paperwork, but I ended up getting into some stuff. Also, do you have your test results for the confirmation of that, by the way?" She responds, "Yes. This whole situation has me feeling so ill and distraught, I feel I need to go to the hospital. I don't even have the energy to make a fist, and my heart is steadily pounding, and I haven't slept." And then he replies, "I'm sorry about all that, and I get it can all be very heavy. I do have the paperwork to show you because I didn't lie to you about my health status. I have no reason to. My records range from 2 different healthcare facilities and also blood work I got from the hospital. I'll be happy to show you in person. I actually went to my primary care provider to receive my previous records, and I spoke to a nurse and called the STD hotline to ask about my situation, and they both gave me the same answer, which I expected. If you need to go to the hospital though, maybe there's nutrients or something that needs to be taken that can help because the lack of sleep and all. Do you think you need to be put on an IV? I don't know. I'm just extremely unwell right now." Then he responds, "Do you need Gatorade or any sort of food or fruit to help a little? Think it might help for something light." Then she responds, "No, this is making me spiral. I've been contacting mental health services all morning." "Okay, I understand. I'm sorry about all that, truly. I know there are services you can call. Do you need to go to the ER?" Then she responds, "I'll know in a few hours. I just went to brush my teeth and threw up some blood." Then he responds, "Oh goodness, yeah, you gotta go to the ER. That's not something to take lightly. Do you need me to take you?" Then she responds, "No, I just need to lay down." The next slide has more text messages. This is him to Christina. "Okay, I just got home. Do you want me to table the paperwork so you can get some rest?" Then she responds, "Okay. Sorry, I'm not sure if that's a yes to the tabling it, or I can just let you rest though. I'll just be gone most of the day, but want you to also rest up." Some time passes and he messages again. "I gotta head out in a couple, but if you're up to it, I'd like to show you the tests I have before leaving. I had to head out, but I'm not sure what time. If you're going to Jumma, I can show you outside the mosque. I brought my records and my tests are on my phone, so it's pretty easy to pull up. I hope you're feeling better today physically and are able to get some rest. I just saw this, I've been out walking." He responds, "You're all good. You want me to circle back before I leave?" And yeah, I feel. No response. More time passes. He texts again. "Hey, I'm on my way home right now, but I still want to show you the stuff if you're home." Then she responds, "I ain't there, but I'ma see you." Then he responds, "Okay, when you think? I have stuff to show you tomorrow, so I might sleep. I'll be back in a few hours," she responds. "Okay, if I'm not up, I'll just talk to you in the morning." More time passes and he texts again. The next morning at 9:17 a.m. "I have to get ready right now and run a few errands before this show. Let me know if you are second so I can show you the test." The statement continues. "The night of the confrontation," she mentions, "I looked her in the eye and told her with unwavering honesty about my results. It was hurtful to then see that truth be reversed. I have always been open and transparent as possible about my status, emotions, and my feelings. The attempts to additionally share false information about me with others felt especially hurtful. I attempted to meet up with her for the next 2 days so we could review the test results in person and in app. We eventually linked up in person to review the results. I presented all the results I had. She said, okay, and walked away. She did not share any test results of her own and never did at any point. At this point, I felt increasingly more worried about her ability to be untruthful and her willingness to share that untruthfulness with others. I continued to give space and spend most of my time with my partner until about a week later when I spent a brief evening at night at home. That morning, I woke up and heard Christina loudly talking about me on the phone. She knew I was home and it felt like she was being purposefully loud, berating and insulting me, as well as plotting to ruin my life with her falsified story of me so that I would hear it. At one point, she states she was plotting to have a group of grown men come and physically attack my partner, Brittany, at the club, and possibly at a later time period. I took these threats seriously enough to where it felt best to record it. Here's an excerpt from that. Before we get to that excerpt, I just want to say, I'm glad that he is addressing this whole thing. This is the whole unconsensually recording somebody thing that I was talking about, and this right here, this seems like a reasonable reason to want to record that conversation. If I heard somebody plotting to ruin my life in another room, loudly and performatively, you know I'd probably record it too. And in this next slide, here's an excerpt from that recording. Roll it.
So yes, I'm telling my literal my men friends to come and jump this bitch, because we're not gonna do that. They some crash out niggas. I have a life, and you're not gonna touch my face. You're not gonna touch my face, and I have a life that makes you. So no, but I can get somebody to crash out over here. Yeah, they're like, it's so bogus. I was like,
the statement continues. I tried relaying the situation to our roommate and thought it best to notify my partner of the concerning threats I just overheard. Brittany decided it was best to come over, address the concerns, and hopefully come to a resolve. Brittany was joined by her sister as the uncertainty of the threats made it feel safer to come together. They had an argument in Christina's room about the why and the what, but not at any time did that include any sort of physical altercation or the stomping down of doors. During the conversation, Christina admits to conspiring to have Brittany jumped by the said group of man friends, male dudes, and she proceeded to call the cops. Shortly after, we got a knock on the door and everyone else in the house tries our best to get it together because we very well know that in America, Black people are killed in their homes by cops for no reason. As soon as we answer the door, Christina begins yelling to the cops about the situation, falsely claiming to have been physically assaulted. Our other roommate, my partner, and I were questioned about what happened, and all explained it was merely just an in-house argument and nothing more than that. After a short time, the cops left and I left the apartment for the duration of the month and stayed at my partner's place once again. Christina ended up leaving about a week or so later, and shortly after started sharing her story and posting on Instagram, now stating I had threatened her, still claiming that I had also given her an STI. Unfortunately, that began to spread amongst the people in our music scene and our friends around. Christina's claim that I shut down and blocked anyone who tried to address me is the furthest from the truth, because the very few people who did approach me about this, I sat down with and transparently gave them the full account, as well as showing some of the messages from above, plus my test results. She then also added that friends of mine had been gang stalking her and harassing her, which again is absolutely untrue. She continued to post on her private story about me, making suggestion posts about financial or material compensation, and berated my partner intensely. If you would like to refer to those posts, you can see it at @DaBunny. And that @DaBunny is definitely all over this comment section. Not a hard account to find. What I wrote down is all that ever happened between us. However, Christina's account of the story rapidly changed and continues to change. The stories I hear all differ from one another. After that, we get another text exchange. I'm not exactly who it is, but underneath it says, "For context, this was sent to me a couple days ago. I don't know the people involved. I had no clue about this prior, but this is to show that myself or my friends of mine haven't gang stalked or harassed her," the text message says. "My friend got posted by her and we both got blocked for exposing her hypocritical ass." Crying, laughing emoji. Then in purple, there's a response. Wait, what do you mean, got posted by her? Basically, we both DM'd her, calling her out for her bullshit, and she posted my friend trying to frame us to whoever will listen as some of Anaya's friends that he sent to threaten her. We literally have no deep connection to the industry at all. We have both since been blocked. And then there's a stories screenshot from Christina showing a screenshot of another story from somebody named Connor, where it says, "You so lame," bunch of broken heart emojis. Then it's showing that ZULU is the song being played on this story. We see another story that is being replied to, but it's too blurry to even make out a little bit. Then underneath that, there's a reply to that story that says, loud, messy, and ugly. Death of Flicks is tagged with the caption LMAOOOOOOOOOO. And then another caption that says, these are their friends. I have been harassed for months. And then underneath that, there's a reply to another story that says, not a liar, but horribly dead wrong and messy. The statement continues. It felt very overwhelming and honestly did not know if it would be best to address it online then, or if it was best to just try and deal with it in real life. I opted for the latter, but I'm now seeing it could have been good to respond publicly the first time. Eventually, it all settled down around fall last year. It's important to note that at that point in time, her story did not include any mentions of physical abuse, sexual misconduct of any kind, or any of the other things that she has now claimed. Nothing about holes being punched in walls, or threats to her life, driving fast with her, threatening her with a weapon, or any of the most recent accusations. All of which are simply untrue and did not happen. And in this situation, or any situation with anyone I've ever been involved with, I have never engaged in physical assault, sexual misconduct, or assault. Since the summer of 2024, I have not been in communication with Christina. I recognize that choices I made to be involved led us to where we are. The decision to involve myself with someone else while I was A, emotionally and mentally in an unsound place, B, still not over my ex, and C, was living with this person, was inconsiderate of the parties involved. Brittany, Christina, and our roommate, and for that, I genuinely apologize. Adding on, it felt important to address additional matters, including about our previous fill-in drummer, Don Brown. I was transparent and provided Don with the full context of the situation at the time of events. He decided to remain with us, joined us for the tour, but consistently treated me coldly. Whenever I attempted to address it, he responded dismissively, claiming that there was no problems and that everything was fine. However, this was clearly not the case, and he often avoided contact with me, which ultimately caused tension within the band. Despite multiple attempts to communicate, I received very little response from him. What was particularly disheartening was that when I mentioned that Brittany's life had been threatened by Christina, Don expressed no opinion or empathy on the matter. It became increasingly difficult to work together, and about 3 months later, we parted ways due to a lack of resolve. I would also like to address some of the matters about my dating experiences from my early 20s. I was in a much more immature place at that time. I was figuring out how to manage my depression while not having the tools or resources for that yet. I've prioritized my own needs over others, and the overwhelming feelings trying to navigate caused my communication style to be selfish, harsh, cold, and inconsiderate, sometimes silencing out and not expressing any sort of emotion. And ultimately, I caused hurt to the people who loved me the most, my friends and former partners alike. I let my immaturity, insecurities, and inability to communicate properly dictate the way I treated others poorly. And for this, I feel deep remorse and regret. Although I have always done my best to take ownership and accountability with folks, I understand that there are people that may still hurt because of it, and I genuinely wish I could reverse this. But sadly, I cannot, and I am truly sorry. I understand and respect that for some people, it may not feel possible to reach reconciliation, but the door remains open for that indefinitely. My past mistakes do not define who I am today, but they have shaped my commitment to being a better person with more self-awareness, compassion, and consideration for those around me. I can't change the past, but I will continue to learn from it, and I will always carry lessons it has taught me. The past few years, I have dedicated to working on my mental health. I've been committed to weekly therapy sessions, as well as spiritual guidance through my patients, and I have developed healthy outlets through different forms of art. And now I think, well, what's next? What may feel most important is repair. In the context of repair, I would like to extend and invite anyone affected to have a conversation about what repair can look like for them. Please feel free to text and or send me a DM. I'll gladly hold space and can be flexible to what feels comfortable. My imam has offered to be a neutral mediator, but we can also connect in a neutral public space, such as a park, and even with a different neutral mediator if needed. Repair for me would look like an acknowledgement of the truth from those who have shared falsehoods. Having my truth denied has been extremely heartbreaking. That acknowledgement would help my process towards finding closure. Thank you for reading through this long note. And there it is, warriors. There is Anaya's response. And I gotta say, as far as apologies and responses go, this one was a good one. It was very convincing and compelling, and he addressed everything along the way. All of my criticisms I had for the last statement, I cannot apply to this statement. This statement over here is as thorough as it could possibly be. I think Anaya showed a lot of transparency and vulnerability in sharing what he shared here. Now, I'm not sure if it's gonna 100% clear his name because those allegations did cause quite the ripple. For a band that size, this story almost went mainstream with those allegations. And then on top of the allegations, he had that really bad response afterwards, which just compounded the entire situation. And as good as this statement is, it's not really digestible. It is dense. There is a lot there. You gotta sift through it. You gotta put time in if you're gonna get anything out of this statement. And I know people, they're headline readers. They don't do the nuanced thing. They don't do the digging thing. And when the story broke, it was shocking. It was salacious. It went viral and people attached themselves to it. You didn't need to do a lot of reading or commit a lot of your brain energy to it. It was just like, oh, allegations are out, he's a bad person. Oh, bad response, he's a bad person. Oh, band broke up with him, he's a bad person. And I covered the story all the way through. And when I had criticisms, I was vocal about the criticisms that I saw. And the only criticism I have for this statement over here is that it's too dense and it might be just a little bit too late. I think he makes arguments in this statement that would convince people to be on his side in this situation. I really do. But the problem is, most people aren't gonna read it. Most people already have their mind made up, and because Zulu is just a afterthought of a band to them anyway, they are not gonna recommit themselves to a statement that they already think has been fucked up once before. But in this statement, Anaya actually addresses everything head on. He tells you what was said, he tells you what the allegation was, how it made him feel, and his account of it. If his account of it had similar elements, he mentioned the similarities. If it was different, he showed the differences. He showed a little bit of text messages back and forth to strengthen his points, but those text messages can't be leaned on as a crutch completely because no matter how many of them there were, they are only clipped context. We need to see their entire relationship play out in order to have the actual story, and that is just impossible. All we have to go on now are her words and his words. And when it comes to the STI situation, I gotta take Anaya's side on this one. It takes a certain kind of bravery to show the entire internet your STI results, but if they're clean, they're clean, and he was being chased down and accused of spreading them. So, you know, you want to clear that up a little bit. He addressed unconsensually recording that call. He addressed the confrontation between Brittany and Christina, gave his account of it, was very detailed in his account, I gotta say. He addresses the harassment campaign and the gang stalking thing, and shows screenshots to kind of vindicate him in that. So all in all, I think it is a great statement, but I don't think it's gonna cause nearly the ripple that the original statement from Christina did. But you know what really would have hammered this home for Anaya and could have actually swayed everything? Is if he sat down in front of a camera the way I'm doing it right now and read this statement. If he just made an addressing the allegations YouTube video, showed all the receipts, and did all that sort of thing. Everybody would have watched that. The brain rot in this world is deep and it runs forever. People are not gonna read 20 pages of dense text. But if a guy who was just accused of stuff cams up and talks about it, everybody's watching it. Everybody's going to be clipping it. Everybody's going to be sharing it. Everybody will have their opinion about it. And if he took that route, then maybe this redemption arc could actually happen quickly. And as a third party, someone that is so far from this situation, I'm still a little bit conflicted, being like, well, who do I believe? What do I say? What do I think? But all I can base it on are the statements that are coming through from the actual people involved in this thing. And if I'm just comparing statements, the allegation statement to this response statement, this response statement is a lot more substantial. Screenshots, receipts, video clips. There's just more meat on this bone. I just wish the meat was digestible. People are not going to read this. Like, people already don't read 3-slide banned statements, you know? The meme is going strong. I'm not reading all that. But in a world of apologies and statements, we don't actually get accountability taken that often. And in this statement, Anaya denies the claims that he deems untrue and takes accountability and apologizes for the things and behaviors that he's demonstrated that have proven to be damaging. Like, the pattern of behavior was even addressed. Normally when dudes face allegations of this nature and there's a pattern of behavior, a paper trail, normally that part of it is conveniently not talked about, which is annoying because the pattern of behavior is the thing that is normally like the nail in the coffin. Like, it's, oh, this isn't the first time? Oh, you keep doing this? Oh, you're not changing? Oh, okay, I get it. I know the kind of person you are. But Anaya addressed the pattern of behavior. He addressed his relationships with the people in his 20s and took ownership for being a dickhead. And it's like, I'm trying to be less of a dickhead these days. So good on him for that. I just went through an entire other statement made by a YouTuber on my Slop channel who faced allegations about a year ago, and his response was awful. So if you want to judge quickly how I respond to good statements versus bad statements, today's the day to do it. Head on over to The Art of Slop for that I'm Alex video response today. And just like Anaya offered in his statement, if anybody wants to have a mediated conversation on my channel or live stream, I can make that happen. Let's get some interviews on the go. Okay, that's it for me. I gotta hop on my American Made and ride into the sunset. Goodbye, see you later, and have a good one.